This is the Huey Alert Podcast with Craig and Shelley Huey, bringing you the tools to transform our nation and culture, the intersection of faith and politics.
Hi, it's Craig Huey, the Huey Alert Podcast. I'm so glad you joined us, whether you're on audio or seeing us on video. We have a great program. It deals with something I care about greatly, which is religious liberty and what's happening with the government. And, Shelley's not with me for this episode. She'll be with us for hopefully the next one. But the guest we have is Matt Krause. And I think you're going to really like him. Awesome guy. He's been involved with First Liberty, one of the groups that fights for Christian rights, for individual rights, for everyone. And he's one that was involved with Coach Kennedy in the most amazing court case. We've interviewed Coach Kennedy. He's got a new movie out. And Matt, welcome to our program. Tell me about that court case. You were involved with a court case that was a historic Supreme Court case.
Yeah, absolutely. First Liberty Institute is the largest organization in the country that deals exclusively with religious liberty.
Yes.
And we were honored to be the advocates for Coach Kennedy all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Wow.
And that was a huge win, and most people know about that. He's got a new movie coming out, and go see that if you can. But a lot of people know about him kneeling at the 50-yard line.
Yes.
What most people don't know is that in the opinion where he got the ability to do that, the Supreme Court threw out what's called the Lemon Test.
Okay.
And we tell folks that the Dobbs, or for the pro-life community, Dobbs and Roe v. Wade, in the religious liberty community, the Kennedy case throwing out the lemon test was about the same magnitude.
Wow, so it was huge.
It's huge.
I haven't heard this before.
Yes.
I didn't know that was part of it.
That's well, in 1970s, early 1970s, there was a Supreme Court case called Lemon v. Kurtzman.
Okay.
And in that case, they promulgated a three-pronged test for when things could be allowed from like a public display of religion.
Right.
Very convoluted. It was this balancing test. You never knew what was going to happen, what was going to survive.
Yeah.
The court got rid of that. And they said, you know what? That test has outlived its usefulness. We're now going to go to a historical and traditional test.
Wow.
So if it lines up with the history and tradition of America, then it's probably okay. And so that is huge. It was paradigm shifting. It was groundbreaking.
Wow.
So we actually have more access to public displays of religion and religious liberty than we've had in the last half century, which is very exciting.
So in my book, The Great Deception, I talk about the war on Christianity. Are you seeing a war on Christianity coming from the federal government or state governments?
Well, it's amazing. We're even seeing it at local governments.
Yes.
We've got a case right now. It's called Dad's Place. It's in Ohio.
Okay.
And this pastor of Dad's Place Church wants to open up his church for the homeless, right?
Yeah.
It's cold. People need
Mission
a place
of
to
the
stay.
church.
That's exactly right. Being the hands and feet of Jesus.
Yes.
They've come in and said, well, you don't have the right permits. You don't have the right this and that. They've criminally prosecuted our client. Saying you can't do this. And we always think, how have we gotten to a place in America where the church isn't allowed to minister to the homeless without fear of retribution or criminal prosecution?
It's so wrong that is happening as a distraction for resources and time of that ministry here in America.
That's what some of our attorneys say, right?
Wow.
Spend your time on going after the people who are trying to hurt the community, not that are trying to help the community.
Really?
Right?
Well, but that's not the only one. Can you give me a few other cases?
Well, we just had one, and this is out in California that you and I are both familiar with.
Yeah.
There was a school out there that was having kids teach other kids on sexual identity, right? I think it was 5th or 6th graders teaching kindergartners about
5th or 6th graders. That's like 10 and 11-year-olds,
That's
right?
exactly right.
10 or 11-year-olds.
Read a book, and you had to have these discussions, and one of them was to get the older kids to talk to the younger kids about this gender identity, sexual orientation.
My gosh.
So
creating confusion.
That's right. And
creating doubt.
We don't want that. And so one of the students came home and told their parents, and the parents said, I don't want my kid participating in that.
Right.
The school refused to allow the parent to opt their child out of it.
Outrageous.
And that's where we thought, whoa, you're way overstepping. I mean, you and I, there's school districts and people that live there would make different decisions than you and I in certain places of the country. Okay, but when you're a parent and you say, I don't want my kid listening to this at the school, and they say, no, we're going to force your kid to listen to something, that's when you've overstepped the boundaries. And so we're fighting on behalf of them right now. And so that's not something that's in all the headlines, not making all the news, but that's the government trying to push a certain ideology or agenda contrary to what we believe you should have to listen to when you send your kid to school.
Wow. That's so disturbing. A couple more cases.
Yeah.
You're painting a picture that most people don't know about. They haven't heard these cases.
Right.
So give me some other ideas. What is the government doing against people of faith?
Well, and I'm giving you two terrible examples now. Let me give you a good one.
Okay.
Last year at the Supreme Court, we had another case.
Right.
Most people get one or two cases Supreme Court maybe in a decade, a couple of decades.
Right, rare.
We've had 4 in the last 20 months, which is pretty unbelievable. And that's a testament to our founder, Kelly Shackelford, and the work that he's done for a long time. But in the Gerald Groff case, I don't know if you've heard about this one. He was a postal worker in Pennsylvania. And he said, going to church is very important to me.
Right.
The worship. And
yes,
exercise.
I remember this.
And he said, so what job can I get where I don't have to work on Sundays?
Right.
Okay, I'll be a postal worker, right?
Yeah.
I know I'll have Sundays off.
Right.
Well, then Amazon and Jeff Bezos come in and say, we want our Prime packages delivered, get into a contract with the government.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the people in Pennsylvania started saying, you have to work on Sundays.
Yeah.
And Gerald was like, I'll do any other day. I'll take double shifts. I'll work early. I'll work late. Just don't make me work on Sunday. That's my day of worship.
Right.
They forced him to time and time again, make things hard. So we took that case up to Supreme Court. And 9-0. Think about that. 9-0, a unanimous decision from the Supreme Court.
That's unheard of. Right? That's amazing.
The religious liberty case, right?
So even the judicial activists, the left-wing portion of the Supreme Court,
even
said this was wrong.
said you can't force somebody against their conscience to do that. And so we're starting to chip away little by little with the Kennedy case, and especially with the Groff case. We've now undercut 2 of the horrible precedents that have been there since about the 1970s in terms of public religion. So it's not all bad news, but we still have a lot more work to do, as we're talking about with some of the cases that we have in front of us.
Wow. I tell you what, one more case. I'm digging for one more case.
Well, okay, so we've talked about government. Let's also talk about sometimes private companies.
Yes.
We have one against Alaska Airlines.
Yes.
The airline company.
Yes.
And at one point, there was this controversial issue on pro-life issue, right? And some of the flight attendants and folks that worked at Alaska Airlines took to their private listserv and said, hey, we have some problems with the way the company is talking about some of these big issues. We don't agree with the stance that they're taking on some of this legislation. Well, these employees got penalized, got persecuted for what they believe only just by merely saying we don't agree with what the company is doing.
Right.
And so we're in litigation with Alaska Airlines right now to vindicate them. And then I'll give you one more because it's so important.
Yeah.
The Navy SEALs. If you remember during COVID.
Oh, yes.
I know you had to flee where you were from during COVID.
From the coercion of the government to close us down.
That's right. Well,
and silence people.
Well, if you remember, our military was forcing the vaccination, the COVID vaccination on all of our military service members. Well, a group of Navy SEALs said, we don't feel right doing this. We don't feel like we should have to do this. It's violating our conscience. Yeah. Not a whole lot of people would take on those cases, but First Liberty did. And we were able to get one of the first, if not the first, injunction, which saved their careers. We were hemorrhaging service members up until that point because they either going to have to leave. And you think about it, these are our best of the best, right? We don't want our Navy SEALs not being Navy SEALs anymore. Yeah. We need those guys out there on the front lines.
100%.
And so we were able to stand in the gap, and not only for the Navy SEALs, but everybody in the Navy, and we're looking to expand that to everybody else in the military, making sure their religious liberty rights were not violated, even though our own Department of Defense was trying to force them to do something that they did not believe in.
It was a major victory. I wrote about it in my newsletter. And I got to tell you, what your group is doing is absolutely amazing. You know, as you take a look at all these legal issues, all these problems going on, what do you see kind of seems to be the trend? What do you think's going on?
Yeah, the more we get untethered from the foundations of our country, the more we get persecuted for believing in the things that they believed in, right? I mean, you go back and look at the founding fathers. Now, some people will claim they were all Bible-believing Christians. Probably not, but a vast majority of them were. And even the ones that weren't understood that our foundation should be built on Judeo-Christian principles.
Yes.
And so I think there's a huge effort, an intentional effort to undercut those with today's day and age. And the more you get unmoored from those foundations, the easier it is to violate the rights that our society was founded upon. So I think that is the major crux of it. We've got folks who have a completely opposite or antithetical worldview to what we were founded on. And so they're trying to move us from everything that made us what we were so that they can hopefully make us what they want us to be.
The Huey Alert will be right back after this important message.
Hi, I'm Craig Huey, the Huey Alert, and I really appreciate you as a podcast listener. And I appreciate also our sponsors that make the podcasts possible. I'm not an investment advisor or investment newsletter writer. I'm a geopolitical commentator, but one thing I do know is that oil and gas prices are going up and the government is putting more restrictions on them, and then there's a unique opportunity that investors could take advantage of. If you're interested, you might want to consider getting a free report that we put together called Biden's War on Energy. And although the purpose of this program is not to make an investment recommendation, we should note that an affiliate of the Huey Alert has separately been engaged in connection with the Investor Relations Services for Prairie Operating Company, a publicly traded oil and gas company and our sponsor. You can easily get this simply by going to the QR code that's on your screen, or you can go to megatrenalert.com, megatrenalert.com, and you'll get a free report, no obligation. Hope you enjoy it. Back to our show. So it's a radical ideology. We find it in the schools. We find it with in the media. We find it with the bureaucracy, an ideological bureaucracy. So it's a complete assault. So what's the individual to do? What can the person watching or listening, what can they do?
Yeah, well, one of the exciting things with the Kennedy case is our Kelly Shackelford said, you know what, let's go on offense, right? As Christians, a lot of times we're playing defense or we're reactionary as conservatives. And so he said, now's our time to go on offense. So now that the lemon test is out of the way, we have an opportunity to do things that we weren't able to do because of that. Which put up nativity scenes where you're at. Maybe put up 10 Commandments like Louisiana did in their schoolhouse walls. Make prayer happen again at city council meetings or school board meetings. Now, we always say, depending on where you live in the country, there may be things you can do, maybe things you can't. In Texas or in Tennessee, they might be able to do a lot of things they may not be able to do in Oregon or California. So call us, call First Liberty, and we'll help you navigate that. But you can go to restoringfaithinamerica.org, RFIA.org. That's just RFIA.org. And you can find a whole litany of things that you can do that you were not able to do.
So Matt, you have a list of things people can do.
That's right.
They can take the initiative in their own community.
That's right.
And they can be a positive change.
That's right.
What if they are a little fearful of that or not sure what to do?
Yeah, we would say call us. We'll help give you the ammunition and the framework to be bold and confident in what you want to do. We can tell you, hey, you should try this. You shouldn't try this, right? Here's how you should approach this. Here's how you should do it. And I think having the knowledge and the understanding of what your rights are makes you so much more confident. And we'll be there to walk you through it every step of the way. But we know that we can't litigate every case. The lemon test was used about 6,000 or 7,000 times since the 1970s to inhibit public displays of religion. We can't go back and relitigate all those cases, but every American can do what they can to restore faith in America, and that's what we're excited about. We want this to be a true grassroots movement, and so many times we think, what can we do? Can we do anything? These are actual tangible steps you can take to restore faith in America, which excites a lot of folks.
Oh, and believe me, I'm sure it's exciting our listeners because they do want to see change and they want to be part of that change. Give me something concrete. One example, what an individual could do, and also give me an example of somebody who the Lord may be putting on their heart to actually run for an office. What would you say?
Oh, man. You know, a lot of times people think politics is a dirty world. It's a tainted world. We're to be in the world, but not of it. But I always tell people, you may not be interested in politics, but it's interested in you, right? You're going to be faced with the effects of what those decision makers are deciding. And do you want people who are like-minded and have your worldview when they're making those decisions, or somebody who doesn't believe what you believe? We should all want to have somebody who's like-minded making that. And you can't have that if Christians don't run for office.
That's
so now I'm a little biased because I spent 10 years in the Texas House. And so having been there, my dad was a pastor and both my grandfathers were pastors. But my dad always told me, he said, hey, everybody's got a pulpit. It just may not be in a church. And so for Christians who are looking to get
say
involved.
That saying again.
Yeah, everybody has a pulpit. It just may not be in a church.
I love it.
And so the Lord may be calling you to the political realm to be that salt and light that he's called us to be. And so I always tell people, Don't get nervous. Don't get scared. Another saying we have is God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called, right? And so you might be nervous right now, but as you step out in faith, you'll have those tools necessary. Now, not that you always win. I've lost races too, right?
Yeah.
You don't know whether the will is to win or to lose, but you just got to be faithful. And in the process, you'll make a difference. And so be bold.
Let me just tell you that there's people hearing this, and they may think, maybe I should take a look at this. And you know what? They may find that they can get involved in a campaign during this election and see how it's done. They could get involved in a campaign and be trained and team up with somebody going door to door, or to start doing texting, or start calling, or start taking a look at how to use their own database on their email and text to be able to be transformers of people who know who they are.
That's right.
Personally, I ran for an office. Never thought I would. It was stupid from a secular standpoint for me to try, because I had zero name recognition. I had zero chance of winning, and yet I almost did win. I beat the mayor and the council people and all the local politicians, even the Secretary of State of California, Deborah Bowen, in the primary.
Oh, wow.
And I almost won, except Obama came in with his marketing machine and used my campaign as a test campaign for his 2012 election. And so Janice Hahn was able to win, and I lost, but I came so close and shocked everybody. But what I learned from that experience, Matt, I learned how these things work. I learned what was going on. It really opened the eyes. It gave me platform. It gave me speaking opportunities. It was pretty amazing. So, it's not whether you're winning or losing. It's you're doing what's right.
That's right. That's right. We always say, you're just called to be faithful. So you do that. But I think you made a great point. If you're in a community, look for who you can get behind. Get behind a local candidate. It doesn't have to be for president or U.S. Senate. It can be a school board or city council or a state rep or a county commissioner. Whatever it might be, look and get involved in those races. You'll be able to have a huge impact on that race.
Right.
You'll learn things in the process, and you'll find that's something I want to do or maybe not want to do. But I think you made a great point. Get involved. Get involved somehow, some way. Yeah. And everybody's on a text thread with 10, 15, 20 people.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure they all vote. That's
what the radical left does.
They've
organized it for this election like you can't believe. It's on steroids, so that they train people how to contact their lists. They even have it set up so they automatically tell you who on your list is in the right swing states, who on your list is registered to vote or not, and who is likely to vote Democrat. And these are the people you should concentrate, and these are the ones likely not to. So don't contact them.
Yeah, that's very sophisticated.
It is crazy what they're doing.
That is. But we can have the same effect. Yes. I think people get scared or intimidated, like, how can I get involved? That's all you have to do. Hey, I'm going to vote. Why don't you go vote? You've got 2 weeks or 3 weeks in early voting. Make sure you go vote. Well, I don't know who to vote for. Well, let me tell you who I'm voting for, right? And then that way you're not only voting once, you have the impact of 20, 30, 40, 50 votes,
That's the only way you can win an election in today's, when we're up against the marketing machine of the Democrats and the radical left and the money that they have, we can win. Yeah. We don't have to have enough money. We can have far less money, but we have to do it right.
The grassroots have to do their part. That's exactly right. That's exactly
Matt,
right.
You've been great. So everyone, I really appreciate you listening and watching. And here's the thing. Matt's given us a lot of understanding of what's going on the war on Christianity. He's given us an idea of how First Liberty is standing up and advancing protection of individual rights. And so I encourage you, get the newsletter he's talking about. Learn what's going on. Be informed about it. And then also pray about actually being involved in the political process. One of the ways you can do that is get my book, The Great Deception, because I talk about what the individual can do. And I talk about these election strategies the radical left does. So get the book, but for right now, get on his list. Matt, one more time. How do you get in touch with you?
Go to firstliberty.org. Again, that's firstliberty.org. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can get election resources you can share with your church and your pastor. And you can get a lot of more information about our current cases and how we're fighting for religious liberty.
Awesome. Everyone, take this podcast, send to your list, email and text, put on Facebook, get the message out. And Matt, I really appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm sorry my wife's not here. Next time we talk, hopefully she will be. But I know what we should do. I'd like to pray for you right now. Is that okay?
I'd love that. Thank you.
Father, I just thank you for Matt and the passion for truth, passion for advancing freedom and constitutional protection that you put on his heart and you developed his mind for. I pray, God, that you give him protection. I pray, Lord, that you give him supernatural energy to do the things you have for him to do. And I thank you for that. In Jesus Christ's name.
Amen. Thank you.
Matt,
great being with you.
Lord
God bless you.
Right.
Thanks for joining us this week. We are listener-supported, so please consider partnering with us by donating at craighuey.com or by signing up for our free newsletter. We look forward to being with you next week. And don't forget to share this podcast with others.
I am Craig Huey of the Huey Alert Podcast. I'm so thankful for you. I'm thankful for our sponsors. And one of our sponsors is Prairie. Now, Prairie is an oil and gas company. This company has been analyzed by a famous investment newsletter writer. And I've included part of his report in a special report I've prepared for all my subscribers to Huey Report called The Biden's War on Energy. Now, the Biden War on Energy is a free report that will tell you what's going on in the energy sector. And then for those who would be interested, I've included the section with the investment newsletter writer talking about Prairie. I'd like to send you the free report, Biden's War on Energy, along with the other 4 special reports I prepared in the Megatrend Election Survival Kit. You can easily get this simply by going to the QR code that's on your screen, or you can go to megatrendalert.com. megatrendalert.com. You'll get the free report, no obligation. Hope you enjoy it.